Welcome back to The Aubservation, filmed at the top of Pub Key, the best bar in the West Village, located on Washington Place and 6th Avenue. Nothing says winter like a cozy little bar, a little hideaway, and that's Pub Key. They have heating, and that's more than I can say for my apartment right now. So today I have a returning guest who needs no introduction, but I'll give him one anyway. Nick is a partner at Castle Island Ventures. He is the coiner of Operation Choke Point 2.0, which exposed the U.S. government's coordinated financial crackdown on crypto firms. Nick, welcome back to The Aubservation. This is a three-peat for you.
Thank you, Aubrey.
Yeah, it's great to have you here. How do you feel?
I feel great. Yeah, third time. Am I the first one ever to do three-peat?
Yeah, Chiefs couldn't do it, but you somehow pulled it out.
Last time we did the show, I had just published the Silvergate expose that I did, which was the last substantive thing I did in Choke Point, and then there were hearings in Congress on that very matter. So it was very exciting.
Yeah, we're going to do an update, a check on that, but I wanted to get sort of your first thoughts and sentiment about crypto and the crypto markets right now, because it's a weird time, I would say.
Yeah, it's very interesting. It's weird that Bitcoin's at 95K and people are down in the dumps about it. I think everybody had trained their mental model on this notion of cycles, which I don't believe in, really. I don't think there are 4-year cycles in crypto. I think that's illusory. And everyone believes or believed that Bitcoin would first go up and then liquidity would trickle into high-quality blue-chip alts, and then maybe into the more speculative stuff. But that's not what happened this cycle, right? So Bitcoin rallied from, I don't know, the 30s, had the ETF rally, the sovereigns buying it rally, the Trump rally. Bitcoin obviously hit a new all-time high. Ethereum is well off its all-time highs. Blue chips have not done well. The rotation into altcoins has not occurred, with the exception of Solana, because it had the more idiosyncratic feature of Solana being the main asset that people use as collateral to trade meme coins against. So it benefited from that trend. And then we didn't have this sequencing of Bitcoin, high quality alts, more speculative stuff. We had Bitcoin, and then also there's a meme coin frenzy. So people kind of speed ran the cycle, I guess. And so what, I think traders positioned themselves for the blue chip alts to rally, and it didn't happen. And they were underexposed to Bitcoin. And so even as Bitcoin's rallying, people are not happy. Now, add to all that is that the meme coin sector is in total disarray, and with it Solana too. And, it's not just this Millet Libra meme coin. It's a number of launches that have been super high profile and have been basically instant rugs. And that is now drawing a ton of scrutiny on the space, an enormous amount. We haven't even begun to see the fallout there. So that whole sector is in total chaos, and I think will affect the Solana DeFi ecosystem significantly.
I want to get into the meme coins, and you just tweeted out that you feel like Solana is falling apart. I want to touch on that, but why you talked about the 4-year cycle? That's not true. You don't believe that exists. Can you explain more into that? Because a lot of people still believe that.
Well, it's just like you're building a mental model on 3 data points, right? I mean, that's not enough data. Mm-hmm. And people compare it to the halving. I think that's completely illusory. I mean, the halving alters Bitcoin's issuance rate by single-digit percentage points to less than a percentage point now.
So the halving's just no longer valid. Maybe at one point it was, and now it's no longer. Or do you believe that the 4-year cycle? I mean, there is evidence to prove that Bitcoin, at least, obviously operates on these 4-year rallies.
There's a correlation, but I think it's spurious, right?
Okay.
The halving, I mean, I don't know if we want to get back into the debate over the halving, the stock to flow model, but
not in this podcast.
I never thought the halving was a market moving event. I think it had a de minimis effect. People certainly felt like the halving had an effect on the price, but again, that's a 3 data point model. It's not enough data, in my opinion. And I think if you look at what really drives crypto markets, it's just global aggregate liquidity conditions. You look at the chart of the growth or the change in M2, the broad money supply, that tracks a lot better with crypto. The other thing that I think is causing disillusionment is that in the last 12 months, I mean, Bitcoin hasn't necessarily outperformed other major asset classes the way it might have used to. And the volatility has also been tempered because we have this new institutional style ownership of Bitcoin. You have entities like sovereign wealth funds now, we know, UAE. You have endowments that are running this thing, like some of the largest pools of capital in the world. And when they get exposure to an asset class, they don't, what they often do is they define a desired ownership threshold. Let's say it's 5%. And when the asset rallies and they become overexposed to it relative to their target threshold, they sell. And when it sells off, they buy. And so this has the effect of tempering the volatility and attenuating it. So I think that's also part of the reason why Bitcoin hasn't seen these like face ripping rallies. And I think we're in a new low volatility regime for Bitcoin too.
The Crypto Council is no longer happening. They said that they're going to sort of just hold these meetings with different people. Why, we joked a little bit about that privately of, who that would be and what that would look like. It didn't come to fruition. Why didn't that happen? What's your take on that?
I think there were just, like crypto people got a bit overexcited and there were too many heads of the trough, too many people were trying to...
I'm sorry. I just think about that tweet that I put out. That's just the council you want and the council you're going to get.
That was a banger. Yeah. So it's probably honestly for the best that we don't get one because it would be filled with just some of the most odious characters in crypto.
This episode of The Aubservation is brought to you by Cake Wallet, the non-custodial crypto wallet that puts you in control. In a world where crypto can feel complicated and intimidating, Cake Wallet makes managing your digital assets simple, secure, and stress-free. You can easily store, send, receive, and swap Bitcoin, Monero, and more. Cake Wallet is built for anyone who values privacy, convenience, and control in their crypto journey. Ready to take charge? Download Cake Wallet today on the App Store or Google Play.
Like the Garlinghouses and the Hodgkinsons, hopefully
it's for the best that the council didn't happen.
Hopefully Trump's admin can make good crypto decisions. Do they need to hear from crypto VCs to make good decisions? I don't think so.
So do you think this was a decision because they didn't want to pay back people who had sort of been in Trump's corner and because maybe they're not quite the right representatives? Do you think this was a David Sachs thing?
I think crypto people are being paid back in spades. Everything we asked for basically is being done. It's in process or it's already been done. Major regulatory decisions like the repeal of SAB 121 have already occurred. The SEC has adopted a pro-crypto posture. The only one thing that hasn't occurred or doesn't appear likely to occur is the SBR.
Yeah, let's talk about that because that's become a big issue for you. You got attacked for that take. You went on Bloomberg and said that the thing that's difficult about being a Bitcoiner is that you're in the trade with a lot of delusional people. Bitcoiners didn't like that. And yeah, you got a lot of heat. Do you want to back up why you made that statement on Bloomberg?
Yeah, that was the market top tick that exact day. I'm not claiming credit, but...
Yeah, you are.
SBR was always going to have to be something that was authorized by Congress. And so I have two views on the SBR.
But explain that to people who are ADIQ Bitcoiners.
You just can't spend money, real amounts of money, without asking Congress for permission. That's the way our democracy works.
It's unconstitutional to do so.
Yeah, and look, Trump is testing the boundaries of the Constitution right now. There's a very interesting executive order that he passed yesterday saying that the independent agencies like the Fed and the SEC report directly to him, which is a new reimagining of the Constitution. Let's put it in a benign way. That has been in place since the Supreme Court decision, I believe, in the 30s, and I think that's been the tradition in America since long before. So if he really wanted to do the SBR through executive order or fiat, he probably could have made an attempt to do that. I don't think it would have been found constitutional because it would have been a significant outlay. You're meant to ask Congress for appropriations. But the fact that he hasn't done that, I think, is indicative. So, it doesn't seem like Trump and his admin want to spend the political capital to get an SBR, to force an SBR through, to shove it down everyone's throats. It looks like that's just going to be delegated to Congress and the Lummis bill. Do I see support for the Lummis bill in Washington? I'm a huge fan of Cynthia Lummis. I said hi to her at the Crypto Ball. Big fan of the team. Everything she's done, especially on Choke Point, has been tremendous. I don't see that bill going through. And then on the normative front, so that's the practical front, the normative front, as in, is it a good idea or not? I also think it's a bad idea.
Okay, explain why.
I think an SBR makes sense for any country that's not the U.S. The U.S. issues the global reserve currency. treasuries are rallying right now, which means holders of our sovereign debt, the 10 years, holders of our sovereign debt are demanding to be paid more in order to hold our debt, right? We don't typically want that to go up. That makes the cost of capital more expensive. Everything is harder and more expensive in a high yield world. We don't want to have to persuade the rest of the world that we're creditworthy and solvent. If we start to plan explicitly for a future where the dollar isn't the currency of choice in the land, or if we're saying we're going to shift back to a gold-backed reserve model or even a Bitcoin-backed model, which I think an SBR would kind of signal, if not explicitly do, that I believe would cause the rest of the world to totally lose confidence in the dollar system and our ability to be a responsible steward of that system. So I also don't think there's a rush. Like maybe in 10 or 20 years when many countries hold Bitcoin at the national level, maybe it does become clear at that point that we're moving towards a kind of a rekindling of the gold standard, this time with Bitcoin. I think we would still have the opportunity to pursue a Bitcoin reserve, and it wouldn't be hard to acquire it. The thing that I would say is like a careful for what you wish for situation is if the US government decides that they really want the Bitcoin. The last time they decided they really wanted a hard asset was with gold in the 30s, and all Bitcoiners know about Order 6102. So if the US government really decides that they at all costs must acquire as much Bitcoin as possible, they're not necessarily just going to buy it on the open market. There's other cheaper ways to use their monopoly on violence to acquire the Bitcoin. You could seize it from the exchanges. You could seize it from the ETFs. You could seize it from individuals. You could pass a law mandating that Bitcoiners sell their Bitcoin back to the government at a fixed price, which is what happened with gold. Yeah. So I don't think it's actually that prudent to maybe try and persuade the government that they really need the Bitcoin.
I mean, it feels a little dramatic. I mean, but I guess you can't roll out that the government won't do that if they've done it in the past. But my question is do you want America to be last to custodying Bitcoin? I mean, we already custody some Bitcoin, but do you want us to be last in this race? Like, that feels very just like inopportunistic for our country.
We're not last. We're first.
I mean,
Americans,
not really.
American custodians, banks, exchanges, individuals, and exchange-traded products hold more Bitcoin, and corporates hold more Bitcoin than any other country on the planet by a lot.
But we're not publicly embracing it, so...
But we don't have a history in this country of the government saying, okay, private sector, here's the investment asset. Like, we are determining that investment flows need to go into this asset. That's just not the way it works in the US. That's how it works in other less capitalistic countries, right?
Okay.
We don't see Biden tried this a bit with industrial policy, tried to direct government resources into certain asset classes, right? For whether they were good or not reasons, but it's not really the job of the government to speculate and to run their own hedge fund. I mean, Biden actually did this with oil. He became a degen oil trader, and I think a profitable one, actually. But I don't really trust bureaucrats to make the best allocative decisions at large scale. And in the US, the US government still has exposure to Bitcoin. If it goes up a ton, we're going to pay capital gains taxes on that. That goes to the government. So I just don't think it's the role of government to like directly intervene in an asset class like this.
So what do you think of the Sovereign Wealth Fund?
I don't think we need one.
Okay, so you're anti.
we run a massive trade deficit. Yeah, like I don't rain on everyone's parade.
You kind of are. Everyone's excited, and Nick comes in. You're like the Debbie Downer in the SNL skit. Have you seen that?
Yeah.
And she like says something really sad, and she like looks into the camera, and she's like, wah wah wah. It's kind of. Is that your role? Do you feel like you take on that role in the Bitcoin space?
I think for sure we in crypto and Bitcoin need internal critics. I think it makes the whole space better if we have internal critics. I'm obviously bullish the asset class and long it in every conceivable way, probably far too long, frankly, overexposed. But I think we appear more credible to outsiders if we have a vigorous internal debate, as opposed to us just uniformly, getting on the same page about things. So Sovereign Wealth Fund, with all due respect to Besson and Trump, doesn't make sense for a trade deficit nation. If you look at the countries that have them, it's because they have a massive trade surplus from selling a commodity, typically oil, and they need somewhere to park the cash. And then they'll, You know, the Norwegians, for instance, they've, I think, over $1 trillion in their sovereign wealth fund. They're some of the largest equity holders in the world. That makes sense. It makes sense for oil exporters to have an SWF. We run a massive trade deficit, so that money has to come from somewhere. So, you know, is it the best use of government expenditures to create, again, like a hedge fund that's run by the government? Certainly not.
All right. Well, what are your kind of, how do you feel when people attack you for these points? Like, do you take it personally? Do you like want to fight back with the Bitcoiners? Do you feel like they have any valid rebuttals to you?
I've never taken an attack personally online.
Sure.
No, look, the strength of my argument stands on its own, regardless of who I am or what I hold. And
Okay.
I write things down in long form, and if they want to engage, it's right there on the internet. And so far, I haven't seen any good responses to my anti-SBR position, for instance.
And just, well, I don't want to go deeper into that, but do you still stand by your point of thinking that you're in the trade with a bunch of delusional people? Is that how you feel still?
Without a doubt, yeah.
So you double down on it?
For sure.
Okay.
But there's no changing that. Look, Bitcoiners' credit and their loss is that they're delusional, and they've been delusional in the right way historically, but also there's a risk that you get into this herd mentality and you can't think clearly because you've won so much over the last decade.
When you say Bitcoiners, does that mean you're sort of looking at this group from afar? Do you feel like you're still a part of that group?
Yeah,
Are you a Bitcoiner?
A lot of Bitcoiners try to say I'm not a Bitcoiner, which is ridiculous. I mean, a Bitcoiner is someone that owns Bitcoin. It doesn't matter what other assets you hold, right? There's no real purity test for being a Bitcoiner, as much as people would like to do that. So yeah, I'm certainly a Bitcoiner. I'm, you know, come on. I'm like practically made of Bitcoin.
Okay. We're cutting that out.
No, we're not cutting that.
We're cutting that part.
We're not cutting that.
He's made of Bitcoin. Okay. Let's talk about changes at the Fed, the FDIC, and the OCC. What's shifting behind the scenes?
Well, so this is one of the most exciting things that's happening right now. Obviously, we had congressional hearings about choke point. The main agencies that were responsible for that were the Fed and the FDIC. The Fed in a more kind of shadowy and unclear way, the FDIC in a very explicit way. They sent all these 25, 26 pause letters to banks telling them to stop doing crypto stuff in 22, 3, and 4, actually. And that's been revealed thanks to Coinbase's lawsuit. There's been obviously a change in leadership at the FDIC. Travis Hill is now the interim chair, and you know he's clearly more friendly towards banking industries like crypto. So that's going to change. That's great. At the OCC, we have Jonathan Gold's been nominated for controller. I used to say comptroller. Apparently, it's just controller.
Oh, really?
The
I used
P
to
is
say
silent.
that too. Oh, really? I didn't know that.
I would honestly
I said
rather
it too.
say comptroller.
I used to say it. Now I've just learned something.
So that's very, very positive. He's also much more positively disposed. And I would expect to see a resumption of something like the OCC under Brooks, where you had the crypto charter and the fintech charter. There was only one bank that made it out with the charter intact, which was Anchorage. The others were killed off or halted under Michael Seal with Biden. So that's very, very positive. So you'll see the possibility to charter a bank at the national level and serve fintech and crypto, which is great because there's been a slow burning war, not just on crypto, but also on fintechs via the banks that serve them. People are not aware of that. And then at the Fed, Michael Barr, he was the VP of supervision of the Fed, which is a very important role. He's stepping down from that role. He'll remain part of the Fed, but he's leaving that role. Mickey Bowman is going to take over. She's a Republican. She's also much more positively disposed towards stablecoins and crypto. So I think in the year ahead, you'll see major banks will be able to serve stablecoins. Probably not issue, but they probably will choose not to issue. But they'll certainly be able to serve major stablecoin issuers, which was something they'd basically been barred from doing. They'll be able to transact in stablecoins. We already know the banks are going to be able to custody crypto assets, and that's already underway with the repeal of SAB 121. Mm. And I think you'll see a wave of new bank charters granted, which is really exciting because since Dodd-Frank, there's only been an average of 5 de novo bank charters a year granted. It used to be dozens or hundreds every year. Dodd-Frank, one of the worst parts of it was it made it virtually impossible to start a new bank, which made the whole sector incredibly anti-competitive. bad for consumers, bad for banks that wanted to be specialists and support a new industry. That was part of the issue with choke point. There's just so few banks that are able and willing to do new things. So I really hope there's a reversal of that, and I think it's coming.
Amazing. We only have like 15 minutes left, and there was some crazy stuff that happened this week. Mostly in the meme coin sector. So moving away to a little bit more of a degeneracy. I feel like I've been tuned out to crypto Twitter because it's been so painful personally to watch some of the meme coin hysteria that's been happening. Like I used to be very glued in, and now I just can't follow it because it's just ridiculous. So Malay launched a meme coin, I guess, this week. Since I haven't been paying attention to it because I really just don't want to be bothered by this embarrassment, what happened? Explain it to people who, weren't following it like me.
Yeah, I mean, this is just the latest in a long sequence of celebrity meme coins. I don't know if we can.
He's not even a celebrity. It's
the president of Argentina. Yeah, this follows. Obviously, Trump launches, Melania launches. The president of the Central African Republic launched a meme coin.
I didn't even know that.
Believe it or not. So Malay is now the third head of state, I believe, to launch a meme coin. So I guess people kind of figured it was okay since Trump did it. But there's so many legal risks and reputational risks and other types of liability incurred in launching a coin. And look, I think Malay, for now, I'm willing to give him the benefit of the doubt and say and assume that he didn't really know much about this and he just got really bad advice from someone in his inner circle, and he sent the tweet out not knowing what it was really. It's certainly possible that it emerges in the coming days that he actually personally profited from this coin, Libra, which, for context, it launched at $1 billion valuation out of the gate, first minute, right?
That's
obvious sign that something's wrong, because who has time to log on to their terminal, open Radium or whatever, Telegram trading bot, see the tweet, put in a trade, right? Like that doesn't happen instantaneously. So that alone is evidence that there was insider sniping, which is confirmed. We know that was the case. Within 45 minutes, it hits a $4 billion valuation. Again, incredibly suspicious that it roofed like that. You don't really see meme coins launch at a multi-billion-dollar valuation within the first hour, right? Even Trump's coin, it didn't have that kind of trajectory. It emerges later on that certain affiliates of this coin or people behind it, this guy Hayden Davis, I'd never heard of before.
Not to be confused with Hayden Adams, because I thought...
Different Hayden.
I thought...
Justice for the other Hayden, honestly.
I was like,
poor
what?
Guy's name is being dragged through the mud right now. Entities that were behind this coin or affiliated with the launch in some capacity had prior knowledge of it. And actually, I talked to some Argentines that I know, and they told me there had been leaks of the meme coin for 2 weeks leading up to this. Oh. So the information was leaking. And these entities were primed for the launch and sniped it. And this guy Hayden says he was actually sniping as a favor in order to kind of like control the supply and make sure it wasn't sniped by others. So it's like...
So he's like the good guy in the situation?
In his own mind, maybe.
Okay.
But certainly there was like basically insider trading, for lack of a better word. And if you're wondering whether insider trading is a crime, even if meme coins aren't considered a security, the answer is unquestionably yes. Unquestionably yes. And there are already cases of insider trading with NFTs that were criminal cases, with ordinary crypto assets that are criminal in nature. There was the OpenSea case, there was the Coinbase case. These carry criminal liability because it's a form of theft, right? You're stealing information that doesn't belong to you. So, this really, I think for the first time, especially when Hayden talked to CoffeeZilla, this is clear evidence that there's this like industrial sector of professional meme coin snipers that are trading on insider information. And everybody kind of knew this or assumed this was the case, but this is the first time we really knew. Mm-hmm. And I think this cast the entire meme coin sector into total disarray, because the whole point of a meme coin was it was like kind of a fair launch, or like that's at least what the meme coin enthusiasts would say to justify these launches. They would compare it to like high FTV VC backed coins that would come out at a high valuation, reward the VCs when retail bought it. The idea was, okay, power to the people, screw the VCs. Anybody can profit from a meme coin. Yes, it's gambling, but it's fair. It's a fair casino game, like playing blackjack or baccarat or whatever. Except at the casino, you have a slight disadvantage. Maybe you're in the absolute best case in blackjack, it's like 48-52, right? Turns out in meme coin land, it was like 95-5 in favor of the house because it was not a fair game. It was a rigged game. And we found this out for good now. I think there's going to be a huge amount of scrutiny, including legal consequences for some of these entities. And I think a lot of the liquidity is going to leave the meme coin space because people will realize it's rigged.
Well, from my understanding, what happened in Argentina was the Argentinians, or is it Argentines? Argentines.
Sure.
They basically had all the information. Usually it's the crypto people, all the KOLs that have, there's always insiders. There's always been insiders. I know it's illegal, but there's always people who are aware and have small groups that are talking about this kind of stuff. And, some people got really tried to get in on it and got completely rugged in the US, just because they were sort of playing by different games. And other people were saying that, potential cartels and people are involved in this and over there. And so, I don't know. It's just the stakes are getting even higher, it seems, as we go along in this hysteria. Now we have people like Dave Portnoy, Barstool Sports founder, who's launching meme coins all the time. We haven't really heard, where Hawk Tua is. It's the most bizarre.
Where's Hawk
Tua? We need a map connecting all these launches, that one meme.
Yeah, honestly, with the benefit of hindsight, did Hawk Tua even do anything wrong?
Well, she looks so innocent compared to everyone else. She's the very
justice for Haley Welsh. Honestly,
you've been wanting Haley back.
She should come back.
You want to go on her podcast?
I used to fall asleep listening to the Talk to a podcast.
Okay.
Where you say, Haley, come back, please. We miss you.
Okay, so people like Dave Portnoy now getting involved, always late. He seems to always get involved in every cycle. Will people be held accountable for these coin launches that they are putting their name and reputation on?
Yeah, I mean...
or no?
Yeah, look, there's more laws than just securities laws. Is a meme coin a security? Okay, probably not. It doesn't promise anything. There's no expectation of profit from a common enterprise. There's no cash flows or dividends. Does that mean you can't do crime with a meme coin? No. That's double negative, but so I'll be clear. You can do crime with a meme coin. There's all sorts of fraud that regularly occurs. There's probably no meme coin launches that aren't, we don't have insiders trading on inside information. So they're not these egalitarian power to the people things. Everyone that bought a meme coin was sold a lie, which is that they're fair. They're not fair. This doesn't mean that a high FDV, low float L1 backed by a giant mega fund is a good thing to buy, but it does mean that the meme coin shills out there lied to you about the nature of the market and is an unfair market structurally, and it's probably worse because there's just no oversight whatsoever. This is why we have securities laws. We are rerunning the lessons of the 1930s that manifested in the SEC. We need Gensler back. Bring him back.
Gary, come back.
Where is he?
We were wrong. I know.
Gary,
I'm sorry.
Gary, we're sorry about what we said. We didn't mean it. I know you're listening over there at MIT. We're ready.
And he
now.
got his job back, too.
We understand what you were trying to tell us. We get it.
We were not responsible enough to be able to handle this kind of technology.
But I mean, really, this is why, jokes aside, and obviously I don't want him back, to be excruciatingly clear, jokes aside,
Daddy Gary.
This is why if you list a public equity on the stock exchange, you have to tell the truth about what you're doing. You can't lie about your financials. And if you lie, there are criminal penalties for that, right? You can't tread on insider information, right? These are basic features of securities markets. The markets are bigger because they're fair. We have the biggest and most liquid securities markets in the world because there is a referee. You can't play a game of soccer with no rules, right? You need a ref. So
what happens? All these people can't go to jail. There's thousands of people who are involved in this stuff. How are they going to get to everyone? What happens? Do these people just get away with it?
Most of them, sure, yeah, but there will need to be some deterrence in place, and Hayden would be a good place to start.
Oh, it starts there. Everybody else before.
Yeah, I mean, look, we don't have the institutional capacity to go after everyone launch a meme coin or trade it on Inside Info, but yeah, go after the big professional shops that snipe these meme coins for a living. Go after these serial meme coin issuers. We know they exist. These are some of the worst people on the planet. Like, these are tourists, right? They are not the crypto OGs. They are not people that believed in the mission, right? What they're doing is they're tearing down the house that we built. They're utterly defiling the crypto industry, and the only way forward is if we completely destroy this entire infrastructure.
So, do you think meme coins are just going to die out and this hysteria is going to be done for eventually? I do want to we have about 10 minutes left. I want to save room for the meme coin VC debate.
No, they're never going to die out. Like, Doge was arguably the first meme coin that's been around since 2013. It was actually the first coin I ever touched of any sort.
Before Bitcoin.
Before Bitcoin, I mined Doge when I was in college. So they're going to be around. There's always going to be meme coins. The retail appetite for gambling with a meme coin is inexhaustible. But the liquidity will be sucked out of the sector significantly, and I don't think it's not going to be the meta for the foreseeable future. And the other thing I'll add is serious questions need to be asked of the infrastructure projects that mediate these meme coin launches, whether it's Pump Fund, Jupiter, Radium, or Meteora. The co-founder of Meteora already resigned, and it's definitely a smoke fire situation, right? I mean, why did he resign? You know, it was something to do with the Libra launch. We don't know. What are the details? Why did a co-founder of a major piece of market infrastructure in Solana resign? I'm not saying these tools are going to cease to exist because they're basically smart contracts at the end of the day, but what was the role of the leadership in facilitating this kind of extractive behavior? Questions need to be asked, and I think there will be serious scrutiny for these venues. It's not going to make me popular to say that, but these are the tools that people use to launch scams, and we need to look at them.
VC meme coin debate. Do you want to do that, or do you want to do the story on your aviation crisis? Which one? We have like 5 minutes. What can you get both in, or do you want to just?
I had to
you got to pick.
This morning, I was late to this podcast because Dr. Trump parked his plane at Dr. Trump parked his plane at the Miami airport. And why is that? Why does he have to ground all planes at the Miami airport? So I want to settle this meme coin VC debate for once and for all, okay? Look, VCs, you know, we have a tough lot in life, okay? It's hard being a VC. We're the most underrepresented minority out there. Why do VCs get so much flack? Some of us are perfectly nice people.
You act like you're going to war. VCs act like they're really doing something.
Yeah, I mean, I think the world might fall apart if, you know, we took an extra month holiday in the summer. Or we skied for an extra week in Aspen. You
act like you're like Vikings, but you are never available.
I'm always available.
Okay.
I'm always online. Look, I just think it's silly that meme coins were sold as part of this like Hegelian like dialectic, like, oh, it's either VCs or meme coins. Are you with the VCs? Okay, you don't like the VCs, then you're with us. It's like, come on, what a completely preposterous way to frame things.
Coming from a VC.
Yeah, full disclosure. You know, there is a real question to be asked. Okay, was it responsible for the VCs to back coins in these really expensive private rounds and then have the coins launch at expensive valuations, thus screwing over retail and rewarding the LPs, institutional investors, and their funds at the expense of retail? That was probably a very bad thing. Does that make meme coins any more worthwhile? Certainly not.
But VCs have been doing this. They did this last cycle with any other coin.
Of course.
They all they wanted was companies to, do you have a coin? Are you going to have a coin? Is the question that they always asked.
Yeah, and we've never been the kind of VC.
And what do you have to answer for that?
Well, look, this is why I set up the fund the way I did to focus on equity. You know, I never wanted to be the VC that would push a founder to launch a coin. Just yesterday, a founder came to me and said, I want to launch a coin. I told him, don't.
Good.
Don't do it. Like, you can do it if you want, but I'm not supportive. So yeah, I do think there's been a ton of misbehavior among VCs. Also, I think the market's adjusted. So if you look at these late pre-launch token rounds, the valuations have come down significantly because the founders realize they want their communities, the end buyers, users, holders, etc., to get in at a reasonable price. this does mean that a lot of VCs will be underwater on these token launches in this next coming year. And they'll be locked. Meanwhile, the token's trading on the open market.
Oh, so poor
cheaply.
VC. So we should actually feel bad for them.
Yeah, so tip your local VC. 3 to 5% of their average check size is customary.
Not funny.
You laughed.
Nick, thank you so much for coming on The Aubservation. Always a treat. Where can the people find you?
Online on Twitter or at nickcarter.info. Everything you could possibly want to know about me, nickcarter.info.
Okay. Thank you so much, and we'll be back next time.